Calling reservation discount is a fundamental misunderstanding. Certain communities were denied right to education, property, dignity, and even access public spaces. This wasn't a minor social issue, it was a civilizational scale oppression that lasted for generations. It is reparation, it is an affirmative action, it is the minimal constitutional effort to repay a historical debt. Hello nomads. How many times have you heard this? A person with lower grade has got into a top college, but I didn't because of reservation. Or reservation is the root of all inequality in India today. It's a narrative we've all been fed. But what if I told you that we have been looking at this entire system backwards? Reservation isn't a discount given to someone, but it is a form of reparation for centuries of debt that was owed. Today, we are going to dismantle the myths around it with facts, data, and a dose of hard history. Stick around because this might change everything you think you know. To understand reservation, we have to travel back. Not just 75 years, but centuries. India's social fabric was built on hierarchical system called caste. For thousands of years, this system wasn't just about a social order. It was about economic and social apartheid. Certain communities were denied right to education, property, dignity, and even access public spaces. Their labor was exploited and their humanity was stripped away. This wasn't a minor social issue. It was a civilizational scale oppression that lasted for generations. When our constitution was being written, the founding fathers led by B.R. Ambedkar identified this. They knew that simply declaring everyone equal wasn't just enough. How do you run a fair race where one participant has been shackled for thousands of years and the other has a multi-generational head start? The answer was a temporary tool to level the playing field: reservation. So right from the start, reservation was not conceived as a permanent crutch, but as a temporary, necessary measure to ensure representation and upliftment. It was the repayment of historical denial of opportunity. This is the biggest and most emotional argument. But let's break it down. Does a person from the SC or ST community who scores 70% has less merit than a general category student scoring 80%? Not when you consider the journey. The general category student likely had access to quality schools, tuition classes, a home environment conducive to studying, and most importantly, generational confidence. The reserve category student might have been the first in their family to even finish school, battling social stigma, economic hardships, and a lack of resources. Their 70% is a triumph against greater odds. Reservation doesn't ignore merit. It contextualizes it. It recognizes that merit is not just a function of intelligence, but of opportunity. This is a fair question. Poverty anywhere is painful. However, reservation was never an anti-poverty program. It is an anti-discrimination program. The key difference is stigma and historical exclusion. A poor person from a forward caste, despite their economic condition, does not face the social stigma, the caste-based violence, or the historical baggage of untouchability. Their last name doesn't invite discrimination in their everyday life. Reservation addresses this specific, unique form of disadvantage that is caste-based and not just economic. This is why government has other schemes for economically weaker sections that are separate from the caste-based reservation. Has it really achieved its goal? Let's look at the data. Even today, the representation of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes in the higher echelons of India's corporate sector, judiciary, and academia is nowhere near their population share. Land ownership is still heavily skewed. Manual scavenging, a practice exclusively forced upon a community, still exists. The social stigma hasn't vanished. The goal of reservation was representation and social justice. Until we see a proportional representation of all spheres of life, the job is not done. 75 years is a blink of an eye in the context of millennia of oppression. Reservation doesn't create division. It acknowledges a pre-existing, deep-rooted division and tries to heal it. By forcing integrations in classrooms, offices, and parliament, it actually does the opposite of dividing. It creates a shared space that would have been otherwise dominated by few. It gives voice to the voiceless and ensures that the needs and perspectives of all communities are represented in the nation's development. A united society isn't one that ignores its fractures, but one that actively works on fixing them. Let's come back to the core idea. Calling reservation discount is a fundamental misunderstanding. A discount is a voluntary reduction in price to attract customers. Reservation is nothing like that. It is reparation. It is an affirmative action. It is the minimal constitutional effort to repay a historical debt. Imagine if your family's wealth was built by systematically exploiting my family for generations, denying us education and wealth creation. Then one day the law says, okay, from now on, you have to give them a small share of opportunities to help them catch up. Is this a discount for a family, or is it the bare minimum justice for yours? That small share is reservation. It's not charity. It's a repayment of the debt owned by the nation to its marginalized communities for the centuries of injustice heaped upon them. The reservation system isn't perfect. No system is. Creamy layer exclusion, implementation flaws. These are some valid debates that we should have. But the core principle of reservation is sound, just, and necessary. It's one of the most profound tools of social justice ever written into a constitution. Before we blame reservation for our personal struggles, let's remember the struggle it seeks to address. A struggle for a basic human dignity that lasted for thousands of years. The next time you hear someone call it as a discount, I hope you can explain that it is not. It's India's long overdue repentance. What did you think? What was the biggest myth you believed about reservation before watching this video? Let me know in the comments below. Let's have a respectful and fact-based discussion. If this video added some value to your understanding, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who needs to hear this perspective. Subscribe for more videos that make you think. Thanks for watching.